This is Rennie Knopf with Championship BBQ.TV, and you're listening to the BBQ Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the really big BBQ Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. Originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, it is the barbecue capital of the North Coast. Oh, hey, I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening. So glad you could join me if you want to jump in on the show tonight. Little different phone number this week because the new number's on the crapper again, 216-220-0966, your standard hotline number again, 216-220-0966. You can also email the show if you would rather do that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to greg@bbqcentralshow.com or on the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, a guest who, as I have looked back through thoughts and people who I would like to have on the show and then actually trying to get some type of ball rolling in that direction. So this is an interview as I scan back to first connections, and there have been a couple different connections to make this happen. Months in the making, and somebody who I have, I don't know if looked up to is the right word, but certainly somebody that I have admired largely in this industry, especially in his specific niche, which is meat purveying, widely considered to be the meat personality and the meat authority when it comes to purveying fine meats. I am, of course, talking about CEO of LaFrieda Meat Purveyors, Pat LaFrieda, joining me for the first time right here on this show. And I think Pat has a unique story to tell, and if you don't know about Pat, you're kind of living under a rock, especially recently with his explosion on social media and YouTube and his interest in a certain type of cooker that we'll be talking about as well in the second portion of our interview. But he has a unique story of what is it like growing up in a family business? Is it something that you always wanted to get into? What did you try outside of the family business? And then once you got in full circle, what were your goals and what were your motivating factors? You always hear about the first generation of the family opening up the business, doing all the hard work, getting customers, customer service, all that stuff. Then maybe they have a kid and that kid gets into the business. Second generation has a tendency to run that ship into the ground or into the iceberg. And if it's not the second generation, typically third generation, if they take over, they're definitely plowing it into there, or at least the percentages are very high. The third generation somehow finds a way to take that business down like the Hindenburg. So against all odds, LaFrieda has continued to flourish within the industry and continues to grow, both from a retail perspective and from a supplying perspective on the business end. So very excited to talk to Pat about a number of things. We'll hold him not only for 9:14, but he will also extend into the 9:35 segment where we will spend the majority of time talking about a Ottow Wilde cooker. And if you're not familiar with this one, definitely check it out before we get Pat on so you can form your own opinions. Ottow Wilde, OTTOWILDE. High heat, mega high heat, Stainless steel, German, probably something that rivals up against that thing that I saw at MBBQA called the Beef or the Beef Eater or the Beef Eater or Beefier Beef, whatever it is, something along those lines. I think that one's also German engineered. So in the second portion of our conversation, we'll be talking about the Ottow Wilde cooker that I believe, and Pat will confirm that he is the exclusive North American dealer for or distributor. So very excited to get caught up with Pat. I don't, not even get caught up. Speak with him for the first time. Then the next time, we'll get re-caught up. Re-caught up? Second hour, we come to find the fourth Tuesday of the month, and that, of course, means the refiring of what has grown to be one of the more popular recurring segments here on this show. That, of course, is the Embedded Correspondents segment for any number of reasons, not the least of which is the three individual personalities that join me: Steve Ray from Ooltewah, Tennessee, Doug Scheiding from Texas, Belverde, Texas, I believe is how they say it, and David Huff from Oklahoma. I don't know where in Oklahoma, David. I'm sorry. Is it, well, let's name all the cities in Oklahoma that I know. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Miami, and I said that right, by the way, and Chandler, home of David Bosca, barbecued legend. And just like that, I'm fresh out of cities in Oklahoma, but I bet that's more than you can name in Ohio. So the Embedded Correspondence segment will be refiring again, and just to give you a teaser, we will be quickly going over what has to be termed as a summation of this project that we have been working on for the last 2 months, which I hypothesized as the purposeful undercooking of steak across America and potentially the world. And we've done our due diligence. I, of course, issued this challenge to my embedded correspondents 2 months ago, and I did not do my own homework the first time around, but I did this time around, visited 2 segment restaurants, one high-end, one mega high-end. So I have some feedback here, and I think you'll be very interested in what ends up being our conclusions. So I'm very excited to unveil that and kind of wrap up that project with a bow and put it to bed. Then we'll also talk about a very special day for the Embedded Correspondence segment. Some of you jumping in on the instant chat, talking about cakes and so forth. I'll leave a teaser about that. No, I will not be eating cake on the air. I will not do that. Now, so stay tuned for the second hour. That's all I got to say about that. Embedded Correspondence segment. We'll get into some other stuff, too. Are you following me on social media? Please do this, whether you're doing it live with me right now or in podcast fashion at your convenience. You know I'm doing social stuff. I've gotten really into doing more social stuff, especially on Instagram. So if you just signed up for an Insta, give me the follow. I'm totally worth it. My feed is awesome. With the help of Stover Harger the Third. Sorry, Stover. He's a wizard at social media, has been helping me find my way. I know it's important, but I'm not good at it. I'm good at this. I'm not good at that. I focus what I'm good at. At BBQ Central Show, all one word, at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, also on the Twitter, at BBQ Central Show. Facebook, of course, if you're watching here on this live video on Facebook, you know where I'm at, but it's /BBQ Central Show. Snapchat, well, I'm currently snapping on the Snappy Chat, which is a direct violation of rule number 5 of the show, and I'm guilty. I am guilty. But I don't know if I'm going to snap on this, if I'm going to keep snapping on the Snapchat. I don't want to snap on it, but I'm not really into that right now. But Instagram, Twitter, at BBQ Central Show, get me there. Come on, you know you're going to love it. At BBQ Central Show, or on Facebook /BBQ Central Show. See, here's what we got going here. Here's what we got. I read yesterday on Facebook, let me just leave you with this, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. Barbecue legend Gary Rourke, Ubon's Barbecue, passed away yesterday. Certainly no shortage of thoughts and well wishes and remembrances on social media as far as that is concerned. And from all accounts, a true gentleman, an incredible representative for barbecue as a whole, a bigger-than-life barbecue personality. And I'm certainly remiss in the fact that I never had him on the show. So to Leslie, who has been on the show, and everyone else in the Ubon's family, thoughts are definitely with you guys. There will be Bloody Marys lifted over the next handful of days and weeks, as I'm sure everyone takes time to remember Gary for sure. So, Gary, thanks so much for everything that you did for the land and world and business of barbecue. You will be missed. Pat LaFrieda coming up out of the break. I'm going to talk to you quickly about the Barbecue Guru. You know, they've always believed that outdoor cooking should be easy because it can be, especially with the Monolith Barbecue Guru Edition grill. The Monolith is the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. This means smarter control and greater freedom with automatic temperature control. Easily choose your cooking time and temperature. Let the Monolith do the work of a sous chef or barbecue pitmaster with minimal effort. You can now do all this barbecue and grilling stuff and have everything happen just like you have a sous chef or a barbecue pitmaster hanging just right to the left of you. You can serve the tastiest, juiciest meals each and every time. You hit up their website, bbqguru.com. And if you have any questions, what do I always tell you? If you have any questions, you give them a call, 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU, and make sure that you ask them all your questions. In turn, they'll make sure that you are outfitted with exactly what you need to get you up and running right out of the box. By the way, Bob Trudnak, Tuffy Stone, Mo Kason, Jim Eltzer, Michael McDearman, we know him here as McD, all on some grand European barbecue class and take-in and demonstration, trying to get Bob and perhaps some of those other guys in a round table to recap that and see where the state of barbecue is across the globe. Not only here domestically, we know it's very popular here, but Bob will be able to give us some feedback on what it's like going to the Netherlands, no less. All right, when we come back, we got Pat LaFrieda. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show right here on the BBQ Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
This portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils, all of Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit as well as in backyards worldwide. Be the pit master of your neighborhood. Visit butcherbbq.com. Stock up now. Always trust your butcher. All right, my guest in the first hour, someone whom I have followed and revered, I guess, for years. And did I think he would be a great guest? Of course! Unparalleled when it comes to the butchering and meat purveying portion of the industry, but didn't think I could just reach out and connect. Well, sometimes all you have to do is take the direct route and make the ask, and guess what? It worked. He just might be the busiest butcher in the biz right now, but he's taking time from his busy schedule to visit with us here right on the Really Big Barbecue Show. So let's head on over to Traeger Grill's hotline and welcome Pat LaFrieda. Pat, how are you, buddy?
Thank you, Greg.
Pat, first of all, appreciate you making time for the show here this evening, and well, this could probably take up the whole first hour. If we could take a quick trip back, when did LaFrieda's originally start, and what was your first exposure to the business as a youth?
Well, Greg, let me tell you, first of all, it's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, thank you.
just as much of a fan of yours as you are of mine. But in my family, so this business has been a family business for 3 generations, really 4 generations. And that's because my great-grandfather came here in 1906, and we were able to track the Ellis Island reports of his signature entering the country as a butcher. And he had 5 sons and 2 daughters. All 5 sons were butchers. One of them was my grandfather, who was born on St. Paddy's Day. And that's how he became named Patrick. He had a son named Patrick, which is my dad, who had a son named Patrick, which is myself. And I have a son named Patrick, although he's only 13. He's that family lifeline really started from Naples, Italy, all the way to New York City. Although the 5 sons were all butchers, they were retail butchers. And it was my grandfather in 1922 that began to sell with his older brother to restaurants. And that's the crossover. So if we say, okay, what's the birth date of your company? It's well before 1922, but in 1922 is when they branched off from working for retailers. And the retailer back then was a company called Bohack. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're no longer in business. But Bohack was the Sears and Roebuck and the Macy's, and now would now today be the Amazon.
Yeah, right.
So they left there and they began to sell to restaurants during a strike. So when there was a meat strike, the independents were able to infiltrate into the meat supply chain and actually travel to farms upstate New York and in New Jersey and bring meat back to restaurants, because all meat came from the 14th Street Meat Market if you were a restaurant in New York City. And if you closed that down, it was fish and vegetables in restaurants until the strike was over. And it was during one of those bits of arbitrage were they able to infiltrate into the industry. But my first memory of the meat business was in lessons that my dad tried to teach me. And it wasn't work ethic as much as it was fear. If you don't study, you're going to wind up working for the family business in 35-degree temperatures at odd hours of the night, and it's cold, and the men are nasty. And I say men because then it was only men.
Yep.
And it's just a rough, tough environment to do only one thing, which was to rub pennies together, was the expression. Meaning there wasn't much money to be made even after the excruciating environment. But it had the opposite effect on me. I loved this business. I was a kid. Imagine just being 10 years old and cutting meat next to your father and grandfather at the table at 3 or 4 a.m. It was just something that most 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-olds never, ever, still to now, I mean, they'll never get to see that. And for a while, I was bringing my son in, and just things became too dangerous, too fast, too heavy, forklifts and bandsaws, and the dangers of it. But he got a good taste of what it's like, and it's something that I send him for great education, like my dad did. My dad was all about education. And I took that education and initially went to the stock market and became a broker. And I thought that was a very noble and great job that my dad would be very proud of, which he was. And I hated it. my son, I think he got a little twinkle in his eye also of I mean, there's something to seeing what's behind the scenes. All we see as consumers are the restaurants or the retail butcher shop where you have the finished product. But where's all that coming from? Where are the hanging animals? You know, where are the animals? You know, where does this meat come from? And to me, it was always very exciting.
Hey Pat, I don't want to interrupt you here real quick, but you know, you were saying as you were cutting meat next to your dad and next to your grandfather, and how exciting and kind of molding that was for you. Did your dad feel the same way? Did he enjoy cutting meat next to his dad and next to his son, or would he have rather found a different trade or another way to make money? But this is kind of what he was forged to do.
No, he loved no. He loved the business. And my father, to this day, at 72 years old, still comes in at 3 a.m. in the morning. And he always worked at 3 a.m. In a few hours from now, he'll be here at 3 a.m. And when I hear his voice, I'm always like, damn it. Because in my business, you want the clock to go the other way.
Right.
Restaurants want their meat early, and you're trying to get the trucks out. And like, he's a 3 a.m. bell. Hey, let's get going. We need to get the meat out. So as we speak right now, my entire crew is getting meat prepared, cut, butchered, portioned, vacuum packed for tomorrow's deliveries. So that's how I transformed the business. But did my dad like the idea? Yeah, he liked the idea of watching my grandfather and I and seeing 3 generations there. But he did not know how much I liked it. He was teaching me work ethic, which I always knew my dad worked hard. It's one of those things where it's a family business. So there's no such thing as a weekend. There's no such thing as clocking out. We often made deliveries to restaurants that forgot their meat order. We were making those deliveries on Friday and Saturday nights. It was just part of life. I didn't know anything other than that life. So being needed and being very crucial to the supply of a restaurant and its success is what really drew me into the business.
Pat LaFrieda,
I didn't feel that in the stock market.
Pat LaFrieda joining me here on the show, the website, LaFrieda.com. You can follow Pat on Instagram as well. Well worth a follow, at Pat LaFrieda. You know, Pat, it's not exactly a parallel comparison here, but, as I'm doing some research on you, and I'm kind of drawn to how similar your story is to another guy that I follow on social media who I'm a pretty big fan of, Gary Vaynerchuk, from business perspective.
Yeah, sure.
Someone who goes into the family business, has a vision of where he wants to take the company, sets forth executing the plan. When you come back, you leave, you graduate from college, you do the stint in the stock market, and then you come back, Pat, into the butcher business. Did you have specific goals at that point from where you wanted to take the company to, or were you just happy mixing back in at that point, trying to figure it out from there?
No goals, except for one, which was to get bigger. And when you get bigger, everything else falls into place. And it's often that people ask me, okay, what's your 5-year plan? The same as it was 5 years ago. Is to get bigger and stronger. And for me, it's about, if the family business died, that means the family died. And back to the Italian-American culture, our last name really was LaFrieda. The American school teachers changed my grandfather's name to LaFrieda to sound more American. And it sounds very strange these days, but then it was very common practice for names to be changed. And the immigrants did not complain.
Right.
They were so happy to have a new opportunity in another land, and they would do anything to be American. So, many meat companies did not survive. So you had to have, and this goes back back to my dad, you had to have an education. You had to have marketing skills. You had to be able to communicate, and you had to be able to see and have a vision for what the company should be. And when I first entered the market, the meat market, and in 1995, 94, 95, it was a very nasty place. If you were a restaurateur, it was not fun to have to get meat. Meat purveyors did not have any flexibility. If you had forgotten to place your order, you could forget about getting it. And I just, right away, something my dad taught me was customer service. It sounds so simple, right? Customer service. But there's a certain part of the day where at the time, meat purveyors would just shut the door, shut the phones off, shut the lights. I remember a restaurateur, Gino Masci from Il Molino Restaurant on West 3rd, the original owner, telling me, and that's how we got him as a customer, that he didn't like a loin of veal that he had been delivered, a rack of veal, sorry.
Yep.
And he actually drove down to the meat company on 14th Street, and he saw the owners hiding behind the wall behind the window until he left, because they didn't want to deal with it. It was Friday afternoon, and it was the weekend, and that was it. So that mentality had to end. And I did it with customer service, and I say this to every entrepreneur in any business, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a purveyor of any kind, or even the tech companies. What is most important to me, especially if someone's to bid out even my network here for all of my data and all my tech stuff for my network service. Like, I need accessibility. I need to be able to get to the right people that can make the changes that will get me through my night, so my customers can get their meat. Without accessibility, you have nothing. So someone may be less expensive, but what does it matter if you can't get them when you need them? So our invoices to this day have my personal cell phone number that I'm talking to you on them, with my dad's home number and my cousin's personal cell phone number. I think every year my cousin begs me to get his phone number off. But he, like, being able to get us on a Saturday afternoon, if you're a restaurant in the Hamptons in the summer, and you have a major problem in which you forgot to place an order, or an order came in incorrectly, we're able to make the calls to get the product to the customer. And, we sell meat and we sell its service. So if you can't provide both, you're only 50% as good as you had hoped. And I just took that to a different level, whereas my dad starts at 3 a.m., out of respect, in order to get bigger, I knew we needed to start earlier. And to the point where we're 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Wow. But out of respect, never asked my dad to change his hours. So he still comes at 3 a.m. And we did what most meat companies didn't ever want to do because of the overtime, which was to open on Friday night into Saturday delivery. Saturday is a restaurant's busiest day, the busiest night in New York City. So not to deliver to restaurants on Saturdays was ludicrous. And when I first started, the idea to deliver to restaurants on Saturdays was just like mind-blowing. It seems so simple, but nobody wanted to deal with it.
So were restaurants trained to try and guesstimate what was going to get them through the weekend, and if they ran out halfway through a Saturday service, that was it through Sunday then?
Right. And
wow.
Think about when they needed to do that. They needed to do that on Thursday.
Right.
Thursday night, they needed to place their order for Friday for the weekend. So that was very difficult, and especially in New York City, where logistically it's impossible to do any kind of volume without, having a master's degree in logistics, because there's no space. So where do you store any kind of raw material? There's no refrigerator space. That's one of the reasons. So we were in New York City for 95 years. 9 years ago now, I moved us to the other side of the river, which we now call the sixth borough of New York, which is Bergen County, New Jersey. It's right through the Lincoln Tunnel. So we needed more space to expand. I mean, we could not process meat in New York City. There's just no space. And every time there was a brownout or a blackout, every restaurant would gather their meat, fish, vegetables, and produce, and drive them down to my place and store them in my refrigerators until their power came back on.
Pat, this show is known for being courageous to a degree. If you ask Daniel Vaughn, the barbecue snob, he could vouch for that. And I think you fit that mold, given the tagline that can be found on some of the aprons and hashtags that I see you throwing out there, which is "Eat My Meat." And I don't know if other folks in your position would be as willing to run that out there. Did that get tossed around in private before you guys decide to go ahead with that, or did it just make good marketing sense? Everybody bought in, and away you go with it.
What's great about I love that question. What's great about that question is that it's the first thing I had to change when I got here was take the "Eat My Meat" off all the trucks. All the trucks on the back says Pat LaFrieda says "Eat My Meat." So I argued with my dad. I'm like, Dad, times are changing and you can't really say things like that anymore. And he's like, Pat, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, I had a complaint from the Marriott Marquis. The purchasing agent is a female, and she thought it was offensive. And he says, well, I'm offended. I'm like, why is that? He's like, I'm just asking her to eat my meat, and she's got sexual connotations in her mind. And I'm like, Dad, stop. I took it off all the trucks. And so I took it off the T-shirts, I took it off aprons, hats, and I got such a pushback from the community. Everyone asked, where's the Eat My Meat? I want the Eat My Meat T-shirt. I want the Eat My Meat hat. So I had to bring it back for apparel and such. But when as far as like on the building or on the trucks, it's something that just it could not be. So it's funny how it's something that from the 70s that my dad had started to put on T-shirts. Being a butcher in the West Village, and the demand that just the general public had for Eat My Meat apparel is hysterical. We sell and give away hundreds of shirts and hats a week that from requests of Eat My Meat. I have restaurants that we sell to that I'll walk into the kitchen to say hello, and everyone's got an Eat My Meat hat or T-shirt on. It's hilarious.
Pat 2 is the courageous one, and then we decourageous, and then we brought back courageous, all in the same time. So that's a great story. Pat, can I hold you over real quick, and then we can talk a little bit more about meat and the Ottow Wilde Grill? All right, stand by. We're talking with Pat LaFrieda from LaFrieda Meats, and you can check him out at LaFrieda.com. That's LaFrieda. LaFrieda.com. And don't forget, not just businesses anymore. You can also go home delivery. We'll talk a little bit about that, too, when we come back. I'm going to talk to you quickly about Cook Shack, makers of smoker ovens for barbecue lovers with any amount of experience, whether you barbecue in the backyard, in the competition circuit, or in a 5-star dining facility. Cook Shack has the unit that will do the job, and with a full line of barbecue sauces, spices, pellets, and wood chunks, It's the perfect one-stop shop. Cook Shack strives to be your barbecue resource center by offering cooking classes, online recipes, how-to videos, 2 blogs, smoking, grilling 101s, and a video cooking classroom. Check out their website at cookshack.com or follow them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+. Get advice and share your passion for barbecue on their world-class barbecue forum. They still have one of those. Cook Shack pellet-fired smokers are the choice of champions because they were designed by a champion, Ed Fast Eddie Morton. The FEC 100, PG 1000, always customer favorites. The PG 1000 can actually double as a smoker and a grill. Low and slow, hot and fast, the pellet grill line gives you the most for your money. Now, maybe you're not into the pellet stuff. I get it. Cook Shack manufactures electric smoker ovens, and they just happen to be the #1 smoker in the industry. High quality means high durability and versatility. Anything you can cook in your oven, you can make in a Cook Shack. Passion and dedication drives Cook Shack's manufacturing, with quality always being at the forefront. Get the best in barbecue since 1962. Call 800-423-0698 or visit the website cookshack.com. That's COOKSHACK, cookshack.com. And check them out. Pat LaFrieda coming up right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your #1 source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers, just like the Cook Shack I was talking about. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also purchase from Amazon.com as well. Don't forget to download the Cookin' Pellets app. It's free. Why not? Great flavors there, too, by the way. All right, we are rejoined with Pat LaFrieda. Pat, thanks for hanging with me through the break there, partner.
My pleasure, brother.
So, let's talk. I mean, we're not going to have enough time, so we're going to have to plan another visit in due time here. But from a square footage perspective, you were talking about how you just couldn't continue to exist in New York City, so you had to go out underneath the bridge to the 6th borough there. What kind of a size facility is LaFrieda existing today?
Well, we were about 5,000 square feet in New York City, and then we built our own facility, which is about 40,000 square feet in New Jersey. And we will, by the end of this year, have a second facility, which is just 2 blocks of here, which will be well over 60,000 square feet. And we're going to keep both of these facilities operational.
Wow. So 100,000 squares under roof there between 2 blocks, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It's too bad we couldn't get the neighbor's property, but it wasn't for sale. It would have been easier. But, yeah, we'll just be 2 blocks away from each other. But in order to keep up with our demand and to keep going in stride, you have to reinvest in your own company. And the only way for us to do that is to build from scratch. And that's what's hard. This is a USDA facility, which means that there's a meat inspector in our building at all times that we're operational. And the government inspector has the ability to close the facility if there's something that's unsafe, or there's a HACCP program that's not being followed, or for a number of reasons. So it adds a little bit of anxiety to our night. I'll never complain about the USDA because it keeps our industry safe. Although it was something very difficult to overcome, the idea of a private building and some government agents having the ability to have access to the building and every part of the building. It's hard to overcome, but they are truly remarkable for food safety. And if there's ever a meat product that has a circle with a number in that circle, an establishment number, you can truly believe, and we all see it, right? Your fans all see many different accolades listed on a meat package, and it's so confusing. And you're right, we do need several more visits to your podcast to explain some of these. But a retail butcher essentially can write in anything they want on the package, and there's no governing power to say, hey, that's inaccurate. When it comes to the USDA, it's the opposite. The USDA, anything that we write on our package, if we write all natural, we have to have all of the evidence and all of the paperwork of the incoming product, where it came from, how it was raised, the raising and finishing protocols to make it all natural before we can put all natural on that package. And those labels need to be approved in Washington, D.C. before we can even think of putting that label on there. So in that regard, it does keep the meat industry from becoming the wild, wild west. So it's something that you can trust in when it comes to USDA facilities. The problem is retail butcher shops are not USDA inspected. They're state inspected. And there are many, many great retail butchers, and you just need to find the ones in your area and have great conversations with them and ask them the questions that you want to know. Where is my meat from? Is it domestic? What are the best cuts for my cooking method? You'd be surprised how many butchers want to have that conversation with their consumers, because, a very simple example would be beef stew. I want beef stew for the weekend. Great. How are you cooking it? Because very seldom is that conversation taking place.
Yeah.
And if you're braising it, then maybe we want to use something like boneless short ribs. If we're putting them on skewers in the barbecue, we want something more like a sirloin steak, something that's going to be just grilled and eaten and would be very tender, as opposed to something that's a braised meat. But they're both called beef stew. So what is beef stew? Just a cube of beef. Okay, so we need to get a little deeper, a little further into the cooking methods. And I think that mentality is something that I brought to LaFrieda Meats. And my father is the type of guy that when I started working with him, I was the lowest man on the totem pole. We were a very small company, but he wanted me to learn every aspect of the business. I'm talking about from sweating copper tubing or plumbing to to cutting meat, to making deliveries, to being the helper in for the driver in making deliveries. And it was in that aspect that I got to visit restaurant chefs in their kitchens. And it's then when I got the education from restaurants, from the chefs themselves, to show me, hey, you see this piece of meat? This is not right for what I'm doing. Let me show you what I'm doing. And then I'd say, yeah, of course. It's not the right cut of meat. Like that veal scallopini. That's great. But no, that's not for the grill. We need to get you a chop. It's just things as simple as that. Or ossobuco on the grill was one of the oddest things in the very beginning. A French chef, complained to me that they were too tough because the translation of ossobuco, which just means hole in the bone in Italian, it didn't translate right into French. So he was trying to make ossobuco on the grill, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. Ossobuco is a braising meat. And it was through that which led to things like Shake Shack. Shake Shack was a hot dog stand. It was hot dogs in the park. And we cannot make burgers here because we only have this flat top. and it was dissecting that flat top in the park, which was Shake Shack was only supposed to be a temporary pop-up, which is, and I don't like pop-ups because I don't like anything that's not permanent. I like. I'm not saying I like to set it and forget it, but when I work hard on something, I want it to last for a long time.
You don't like carnivals, then, do you?
The carnivals might be an exception, but I like to work on something like the U.S. Open. Let's say it's going on right now. It's 2.5 weeks of the best high. It's the best natural high you could ever experience. It's over $1 billion in sales in 2.5 weeks, and then it's all over. And you need to be there, and you need to make sure everything's going right. We've already had. So we also supply to, let's say, Yankee Stadium and Citi Field. I would say in the first 3 days we've had as many problems as the entire season for the Mets and the Yankees combined.
Right.
Not meat problems, just problems in general with like the computer systems going down and whatnot. But it's that kind of buzz that makes an urgency, which to me takes your job to a new level. But back to knowing what a restaurant needs. I said, yeah, the burgers are not cooking well on this grill because if you feel around the grill, there were too many cold spots. And it was a flat top. And when we took the top off, we could see that a couple of the burners were off. So we got these, I think they were $1.50 each. They were thermometers that were surface temperature thermometers. They laid flat like a disc, like a hockey puck.
Yep.
And we put them in all four corners. And that was the test to see if you had heat that was constant throughout. So now, of course, they have a completely different setup with Mericlean material, which is a very solid temperature. But you'll always notice at a Shake Shack, they'll only put so many burgers on at once, so they don't pull down the flat top. And it was really through conversations with chefs like that led to the success of I think of one of America's greatest restaurant expansions, which was Shake Shack.
And you're kind of instrumental in not only the cooking aspect there, but actually coming up with the blend that Shake Shack uses, correct?
Well, yes, I had to change the blend for that, and it was one of the first blends that I worked on. My grandfather always knew that in order to have consistency with burger flavor, you needed to use the same cuts of meat all the time. You could not just take all the trimmings from whatever you were cutting that day and grind them, make burgers, and they were going to taste the same the next day. They don't. So what we do is we sell our trimmings to other companies. We have thousands of pounds of trimmings, but less and less because the industry, as time goes on, becomes more and more efficient. So less and less waste makes it here. But we don't use trimmings in our blends. So they're specific whole cuts of meat so that we know that if we put in 4 chucks into this blend and 4 briskets and 4 beef clods with the flat iron steak still attached, which is a big trick that a lot of manufacturing, kill facilities try to take that flat iron off because it's so tasty. But it's a very important part of the grinding and hamburger flavor. That's the only way to keep burgers consistent. So I'm blamed right now through the industry, and I'm sure through a lot of your listeners, for the price of beef brisket as high as it is.
Oh, that's your fault?
It's my grandfather's fault, really. The buttery fat that separates the 2 muscle groups in a brisket, the nose end which is the fattier side, my favorite side, and the first cut of the brisket, is got a buttery fat flavor that you can't compare it to anything else. It's like, my favorite steak is the outside skirt steak. It's got a mineral rock, semi-calves liver flavor to it, which it may not sound so great, but it's the best way I could describe it. It's delicious. But blindfolded, I could tell you that steak from any other steak on the animal. So with brisket, you can tell if there's brisket in the blend or not. And brisket, chuck, beef clod, which is the shoulder of the chuck. The chuck is more of the top of the back. The clod is more of the arm, of the front arm. And chuck flaptail, which is boneless short rib. Those are the main ingredients into my grandfather's recipe. We knew we needed to add some brisket to that flat top because the sear that the chef was trying to get at the time, we weren't able to get it with that amount of heat. But then when we raised the fat content, without raising fat, so we didn't take additional fat and add it in. It sounds like it would work, but it's like putting butter cubes into a burger blend. It's just going to melt out. You need intramuscular fat. You need the fat that runs through the muscle grain, so that yes, you want some fat to cook out in the cooking process, but you also want some fat to stay in so the burger is moist. And I got to say, it's my grandfather's saying, and I've repeated it 1,000 times. You cannot hide your sins in the grinder. You just can't put anything you want in there and expect for purity to come out, something that tastes good. It just doesn't work that way.
Pat, let me ask you a quick question here before I turn you loose, and I appreciate the time. And I'm going to expose myself as a potential rube here. I've done that a number of times with Steven Reichlin here on the show, who's a barbecue Hall of Famer. When I told him that every once in a while I don't mind a boiled hot dog, and he said I belonged in the 10th circle of hell.
That's all right.
This morning, for dinner today, I had a double cheeseburger, and I used Bubba Burgers. I seem to like them quite a bit, and I put it on Instagram, and I get crap back from people going, "Oh, you do deserve to be in the 10th circle of hell. Bubba Burgers are for losers." Blah blah blah. That's anti-grilling and anti-barbecue. I mean, obviously there's levels to everything, but is there a place for everything too?
Well, of course there's a place for it. There is a market for everything, and I cannot speak to Bubba Burger because I really don't know much about them. It's a retail brand that does very well.
Right.
From what I know, I think you're probably getting pushback, I assume, because there's mechanically deboned beef in it, which I think I think Texas outlawed the terminology pink slime. But pink slime really isn't something that's evil. It's really just taking the protein off of bones and texturing them, so it's finely textured beef. You might not get, so you made a double burger, and I'm assuming it wasn't that rare, right? It was kind of well done.
Yeah, it was like medium.
Oh, you still had color.
Yeah, just a little bit of pink.
Okay, so if you were going to make an 8-ounce burger that was thicker, or let's say a 6-ounce burger, a single burger, you might not have the same experience. But if you have, let's say you're working with something that's less expensive, let's leave their name out of it because I really don't know those folks, and I'm sure they're great people. But let's just say you had a less expensive burger. Let's call it a cafeteria burger.
Yeah.
If you know what you're working with, and you know how to cook it, like New Zealand lamb, it's the worst lamb in the world, but most restaurants in New York City use it. Mm-hmm. They know that they're dealing with something that is not very forgiving. meaning that it overcooks easily. So you just told me you made a double burger. And I often give the advice, if you're going to use something that you're not as sure about the quality, a double burger is great because even if it dries out, did you put a layer of cheese in between?
Maybe 2 layers.
Okay, so there you go.
Double cheeseburger.
So now you're keeping moisture between the two proteins, and I mean, you can't ask for better than that. It's hard to mess that up.
Yeah.
So let's say you wanted, or you were using a burger like that, and you weren't really sure. I make burgers like that all the time. As far as we call them flats, so they're real flat.
Yep.
So we'll make 2 4-ounce flats. I make them square just because we have that ability, and I'll put my 1 slice of American cheese in between and 1 on top, and they're the best. My kids gobble them down. So, yeah, I mean, if you and that goes a lot, and that brings up a great point. If you know what meat you're working with, and you know its tendencies, then you do alter the way you cook them, and you'll have great outcomes. Yeah, when meat like that may be less forgiving, but if you know what you're doing, it'll be just fine.
Pat LaFrieda is the CEO of Pat LaFrieda Meat Purveyors. Again, the website, LaFrieda.com, or follow Pat on Instagram, Pat LaFrieda. Pat, really appreciate the time, the look back, the history, and all the good information that you've given here tonight. But we'll reconnect here for a bunch of other segments for sure, man. Thanks for doing it.
Very good. My pleasure, pal.
There he is, Pat LaFrieda. Right there.
All guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline. Yummy.
Pat LaFrieda. The Flats. That was pretty...
Big name interviews.
Whoa.
Advice on cooking brisket and rib.
What the hell happened there? Hold on a second. I got time for a read here real quick. Where do we go? Traeger. That's right. You know them, you love them. Behind every great meal, there is a great grill. Not just any grill. A Traeger grill. Barbecue like a pro, no matter what your level, thanks to the incredible wood-fired taste. Seriously, you don't know flavor till you're cooking with it. Traeger grills use all-natural hardwood pellets as fuel, so you're literally cooking with flavor. From low and slow smoked ribs to a seared steak, even a baked apple pie, Traegers can handle it all, and the Traeger Timberline makes it even easier thanks to the Wi-Fi capability. You can check on your cooks, pick up temperatures, set custom cook cycles anytime, anywhere, all right on the phone through your Traeger app. In fact, I need to check on my brisket right now. I'm not cooking one right now. Find a local Traeger dealer or check them out online at TraegerGrills.com. Want to beef up your barbecue game? Hell yes, you do. Traeger Shop Class is going coast to coast, bringing barbecue knowledge and amazing wood-fired food everywhere they go. Taught by professional pitmasters, you'll take home all the skills you need to reach barbecue glory. Find a shop class near you. Sign up today at TraegerGrills.com/shop class. Wrapping the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the BBQ Central Show.
All right, welcome back. Thanks again to Pat LaFrieda. LaFrieda.com, LaFrieda.com. I'm telling you, I didn't get anywhere near where I wanted to get with him. I especially wanted to talk about dry aging and the availability of their dry aged steaks for retail. You can get them 30 days, 50 days, and 70 days. Varying thicknesses, all the cuts that you want. I got my eyes on 70-day, 1.5-inch thick ribeyes. I'm going to make it happen. What can I tell you? And when I say that, I mean I'm going to buy them. I'm not going to ask him for free steak. Dry aging is completely engulfed me at this point. I'm all about it. All right, let's step away real quick. Reload for the second hour. some Summeratory's thoughts on Pat's visit, and your questions, concerns, and comments. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jeff Richards, Columbus, Ohio. You're listening to BBQ Central. Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono. It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener.
Oh, listen, Liberty, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
All right, just like that, we are into the second hour. Welcome aboard. Folks, you found the BBQ Central Show. Yeah, you did it. It's a show that talks about barbecue and grilling stuff. It's the ESPN of the live fire cooking and grilling industry. Did that Greenberg and Beadle and Jalen Rose show on ESPN get tanked? I thought I just read a story before the show started. Did they kick Beadle off? She's good to look at. I like her. Anyway, email John Dawson, 4 words is the subject line. Pat LaFrieda, pure gold. I'd love to hear his thoughts on boutique meats and branding like Certified Angus, which, fun fact, by the way, Certified Angus beef located right here in Wooster, Ohio, boy. Thank you, John. Also from John Dawson, subject line, undercookage, Remps, I bet I'm a couple steps behind you, but I bet Pat LaFrieda can provide some great insight on international steak undercookage. That was something I didn't get to.
Get that big stuff out of here.
If you could see my outline of what I thought I was going to get to and what I got to, you might wonder if we ever did the interview, if you're just going to go ahead and check out the outline that I did. Well, the good news is I'm pretty much set up for the next few interviews. So Pat broke down a lot of stuff, went a lot deeper than I thought he was even going to bother to go. So from an informational standpoint, absolutely great. From I want to get through my outline and F everybody else, it's not great.
Get that big stuff out of here.
But yeah, I mean, I love getting... So it's great to see somebody where they are in his current station of success. I mean, LaFrieda Meats is far and away the pinnacle of that portion of the industry. I mean, you heard him 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. I mean, how much meat are they processing? Servicing New York City, but not only that, it's not just going into the distributing side now to restaurants and the food biz, but it is retail. So you and me, my Aunt Betty, we can all get Pat LaFrieda Meats just like you're going to get at the steakhouses. Oh, by the way, if you go on to LaFrieda.com, you go into the dry aging room and you can get varying cuts. You can get 1 inch, 1.25 inches. I think it goes up to 2 inches. Might have to buy a pair or 4 at a time. Certainly 1.5 inches ribeye, 70 days. If you get 2 or 4, I mean, you're probably going to be in that $300 range. I mean, I'm sure. But it's an experience, right? I mean, who doesn't like dry aging? And as we've all learned through the dry aging courses that we've taken through 2018, 30-day dry age is where you get it for tenderness and peak taste. But once you start stretching through into past day 30, like 40 and 50 and 60 and 70, that's when, as I've called it, the funk factor starts to go in. So as you're reading LaFrieda's website, he strongly cautions, hey, if you ain't down or you don't know what a 50 or 70 day age, dry aged steak tastes like or might taste like, we recommend you start a little less aged and then work your way up to it. If you're somebody that doesn't like blue cheese, if you can't get down on that, or the funkiness and earthiness, it's almost like wine to a certain degree. Some wines you eat, they're like that new age, fruit forward, blast of fruit in your face. A lot of snobs hated on that. You know, when I was drinking, I was an appreciator of everything. I liked new age. I liked high alcohol. I liked the more old standby or classics, big tannin. But whatever your palate is, so I would totally agree. I had a 40-day or maybe it was a 50-day dry-aged steak when I was down in Columbus, and that did have an approachable funk factor. Was it over the top? No. Was it there? Every single bite it was there. And it was delicious for me. So I'm ready to make that jump to 70 days. So I would do it. I would do it. LaFrieda Meat, or LaFrieda.com, LaFrieda Meat Purveyors, and follow Pat at PatLaFrieda.com. More from him to come, for sure, for sure. Still to come on this show, the Embedded Correspondents segment in 10 minutes' time. Now, let me tell you something. I made mention of it to Pat just this last segment. I have had it. I will not take it anymore.
Andrew, you are not the father.
That's right. I will not take any more the hating on the Bubba Burgers. Forget it. Don't bring it to me. I Instagram storied my dinner cook today. Okay? Showed you the grill, showed you the new patio setup, broke out Quattro Bubba Burgers, brown box. Didn't go Angus this time, brown box. 2 for me, double cheese. 1 for middle, 1 for youngest daughter, no cheese. Toasted buns all the way around. Here's the post or the direct message that I get back from an Instagram follower. No names, please. And I quote, "Seriously? Come on, Greg. The 10th circle of hell is for Bubba Burgers too." Why? Here's what I have to say. Why does it have to be a 10th circle of hell avenue? I mean, is it not enough that I'm already going to the 10th circle of hell? Because every once in a while, I like a well-placed boiled hot dog in a non-toasted bun, or steamed for that matter, with a lot of ketchup on the top. I like that. You know what else I like? I like double cheese Bubba Burgers. I like them with the bacon and cheese mixed in them. I don't like onions, so I don't like that. I like the Angus, and I like the original. So if you're telling me, seriously, Bubba Burgers? What do you have against Bubba Burgers? Why do you hate Bubba Burgers so much? What have they ever done to you except be affordable and delicious and consistent each and every time? I know what I am getting with a Bubba Burger. I know how to cook them. I know how to make them juicy and succulent. Did I mention double cheese? Yeah. I don't... Believe me, Instagram person that direct messaged me, I was of the same ilk before I had my first Bubba Burger. I don't know when I had it. I don't know if I bought them or if I cooked them somewhere else, whatever. But the bottom line is I had one, and it changed my life forever. So now if I'm in a pinch or I want a quick dinner, I can always keep them in the freezer. They turn over pretty quick because my oldest, the meat eater of the family, aside from me, loves Bubba Burgers as well. Why can't I like them? Why do I have to continue to go to 10th circles of hells because of what I like? I trust my palate. Trust your palate. But I'm not going to tell you if you eat cat liver that you're wrong. Oh, please. You're going to the 13th circle of hell, bastard. Eat your cat liver. Or deer liver, or whatever it is you people eat. I like Bubba Burger, and I don't care. Unfollow me. In fact, sir, you're banned.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Hope you liked reading my feed, because after the show, you're banned. Guess who's going to the first circle of your banned hell? You. You're banned. And if you come at me again with that nonsense, I'm going to ban you from the show. Book it. If I could only go to my call screener and, like, get his, like, yeah. I can't. Maybe I can. Wait, can I? No, can't. Damn it. Wait, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you tell him. You tell him. That's right, I'm on the phone. You tell him.
That was horrible. All right. Embedded Correspondents segment coming up out of the break. I'm going to read behind, too, by the way. We'll catch up. Don't worry about it. Here's what you should do in the meantime. Get on over to Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. Well known for the championship rubs and seasonings. Popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit. And in the backyard, I use them all the time. Big Papa Smokers offers 13 perfectly balanced flavors that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Whether you're cooking to impress the judges or grilling for your family, Big Papa Smokers' award-winning rubs and seasonings will not disappoint. Pick up a bottle today at BigPapaSmokers.com. Don't forget about the West Coast offense. That's right, Big Papa Smokers teaming up with Simply Marvelous Barbecue. Do you know all about it? They also sell and own Granny's barbecue sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to barbecue sauce that will please everyone, Granny's traditional yet powerful flavors remind us why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. And aside from their premium selection of rubs and sauces, Big Papa Smokers offers the very best pellet, charcoal, and wood cookers available today. Are you looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use? Might I suggest the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill. Big Papa Smokers is the exclusive Mac dealer, even offers special packages. Nobody else can do it. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Fine. Take a look at the... in fact, Barbecue Pit Dude, not a fan of pellet smokers. All right, Barbecue Pit Dude, take a look at the Old Hickory Ace BP. It's the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition barbecue trailer. Is that good enough for you? If you're a backyard barbecue enthusiast looking for a durable and versatile grill that will last forever, the M Grill is just what you need. They're built like tanks. Travis McGee, building tanks that cook. Not sure what grill you need? Can't go wrong with anything that's offered on the website. They have something for every kind of backyard cooking budget. Clearly, Big Papa Smokers, the place to go for all things barbecue. Every product featured on their website has been hand-selected to help you barbecue better. Questions, call them 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop the website BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA Smokers.com. Embedded Correspondents coming up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, all right, welcome back, everybody. Smoking with Smithfield, committed cooks. Make sure to head to smokingwithsmithfield.com and report your first place prize For your claims of first place, have you registered to compete in the American Pork Loin Ancillary? Smithfield just increased the prize purse to $6,000. Make sure you sign up for the American Royal site today. Don't forget the Smithfield Classic, which will be in Richmond, Virginia on September 29th. To sign up, reach out to Jesse with Big Papa Smokers. That's Jesse, Jessie, at BigPapaSmokers.com. All right, here we go. It is the 4th Tuesday of the month, and you know that means the Embedded Correspondence segment is here and fired up. Gents, might I say, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Well, happy anniversary, Greg.
Wow. Well, guys, we have made it. I mean, us four, well, me and you three, have made it together for 12 months straight. How about that? How about it? Doug, do you have any breaking news?
Breaking news other than the
BBQ Central
cake that you got today?
Exclusive news update.
The thing that we were going to say. Oh,
my God.
This guy. Well, look, I don't want to be a ball buster here, Steve.
I know.
I believe that the actual year anniversary was June 27th of the Embedded Correspondence segment. So you're a little tardy. However, I will give you that the three Cavalieros and myself do find this to be the 12th month in existence.
For us, yes.
Yes, for us. Right. Is that what you were going for, Steve?
Yeah, for us.
Let me tell you something.
For us.
If you follow me on social media, by the way, that's a very patriotic shirt there, Steve.
I like it.
I was delivered through Risk, by the way, of whoever sent that cake, that I would be in the work office today. And I was gifted, if you follow me on social media, go to Instagram at BBQ Central Show and see that delicious, and might I say, had to have been 10 inches deep chocolate cake. Wow. Thank you. I mean, unbelievable. It was, and by the way, I'm not a chocolate cake fan. That was delicious. I might be turning over a new leaf of chocolate cakedness. Steve, are you a chocolate cake guy?
I love it with white icing. I ordered you what I would have eaten.
Oh, okay, that's great.
And I've been.
You what?
I said I ordered what I would have eaten had I been.
All right, David Huff, are you a fan of chocolate cake?
I'm a pie guy, but I'll eat any dessert if you can't tell.
All right. Man, what is this new friggin' Skype is really pissing me off. I got to be honest. I can't scroll through the pictures like I could before. Can't do anything. I can't get involved with anybody. The hell just happened with you? God, freaking hate it. Anyway. All right, guys, so we got a bunch of stuff to cover. Let me scroll down here to my notes. And since it is the year anniversary of this form of the Embedded Correspondence segment, even though I think all of us were still around from the beginning, but does anybody, and we'll start with Steve, of course, does anybody have any favorite moments of the BBQ Central Show's Embedded Correspondence segment as we look over the last 12 and 14 months?
My favorite part was after you did your NBBQA rant. And you went to the esteemed Embedded Correspondence. And you led off with David.
Yes.
And David dished your performance at the NBBQA. and then he's talking to you. And you go, David, tap your mic. And we've heard nothing.
Yeah.
And then you said, you wait a minute. You said, wait a goddamn minute. You just dished me. I'm not the one talking into a dead mic. And David throws the mic to the side. He's busted.
Fake it till you make it, Steve.
Right.
What's the problem?
I almost fell off.
Yeah, that was a classic moment. David, as you look back over the last 12, 14 months, are there any points of the Embedded Correspondence segment that stick out to you?
Stick out? I mean, look at Steve's shirt right now. He never fails to impress. His stylist must be getting paid a tremendous amount of money. I just wish I could be like that. I mean, I have this wonderful BBQ Central t-shirt on instead. So, I mean, other than that, it's been good times for the last 12 months. I've learned a lot and probably taught a little less.
Doug, your recap of the last 12, 14 months, some highlights for you?
I agree with Steve in terms of David and the microphone. That was fantastic. For myself, it'd have to be the hot dogs. For Steve, it would have to be the Hall of Fame sermon that he gave to us with regard to Charlie and being in the Hall of Fame, and which, by the way, he was right on that.
Yeah.
And Greg, I think for you, my favorite moment was when you said who was making all the GD noise one time at the beginning of one of our segments.
Yeah. Well, I think, I'm going to go with you, Doug, as far as segments that really stand out to me. And it seems a little disingenuous that the most recent segment happens to be my favorite, because here's the unique thing that I find about the Embedded Correspondents segment. The very first one we had, I thought, hey, there's something here. I wasn't bowled over with it. There were some issues that we were having. Maybe there were too many spoons in the cake batter or what have you. But I thought, by and large, there was something workable and pliable that we might be able to mold into something. And then we tried it again next month when we had a few less people around. We had a few more topics. We started getting together and sharing a document around so we could all have a quick peek, not know what everybody else is talking about, but at least have an idea so we could form our own rebuttals and opinions. And the second month, I knew right then and there, good collection of guys. Each one is individualistic. They are not all just singular competition guys or not competition guys. They're three independent individuals, three independent thinkers, and most importantly, from a show perspective, not afraid, not intimidated to jump in on anybody and say, you're wrong, I don't agree with that, and here's why, and we go back and forth. And the biggest successful part of this whole thing is everybody gets it, right? Nobody is hanging up the phone or hanging up the Skype line at the end of the fourth Tuesday of the month thinking that their fanny hurts or they got picked on the most or anything like that. Everybody gets where the entertainment is supposed to be. Everybody is bringing a great amount of information or opinion, and nobody's afraid to give it and then take it, which for this segment is absolutely key. So I knew the second month that we definitely had something that was going to be able to reoccur, and I can tell from the emails and from all the direct messages that I get that this is one of the more popular segments that happens. But getting back to the answer here, that hot dog, because it did go back a week before getting chastised by a barbecue Hall of Famer and Steven Reichlin saying that I was going to be in hell, which at that point I thought he said tense, like tightened up, like tense circle of hell, and I'd never heard that before, and I'd never heard a 10th circle of hell either, by the way. So I Googled that, figured out what he was saying, and then Doug weighing in saying that he wouldn't let hot dog skin touch his grill grates, not even for kids. And the look on Doug's face when I was rebutting him and saying, are you kidding me? Doug hates kids. And he's looking around his room like, is everybody else hearing how crazy this guy is? I mean, it was just a beautiful piece of visual and auditory archive that will go down in the histories of the BBQ Central Show, the likes of no other. So that's kind of what I remember as well. But, gentlemen, truly, thank you from my part here. I got to count on 3 people to show up each and every month. You show up, you're prepared, and you're ready to do it. And, I mean, from a host perspective, I can't ask any more than that. So I applaud each and every one of you. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks, Greg.
It's a pleasure.
And we introduced nitrogen in tires.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's been downhill ever since.
The air out of the room. We said we can talk about other things, food and barbecue. Yeah. Talk about nitrogen and tires.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Steve's first appearance on my show ever was talking about how all these yahoos are going to these barbecue competitions and blowing tires and bearings. Like, what the hell? Isn't anybody doing any maintenance on these things? Or you just put them up for dry storage in the winter and just roll them right out when competition season, hope it crosses fingers and hopes you're going to make it 5,000 miles across the country without injury. Steve laid it down.
That's right. It was.
That's right. It was a great. That was a classic segment too. John, if you're listening, that should be a best of segment. I think that was a best of for sure. All right. So
and what folks don't know, the best shows are every morning about 6:30, 6:45.
Yeah,
too damn early.
The show,
it's too early.
The best show is the show that you never hear or you never see. That's right. So let's go ahead and quickly go through what we have been calling the. I'm walking it back a little bit, but the theory that there is a purposeful undercooking of steak across this country of ours. This is now the end of the second month. We have done an incredible amount of due diligence to be able to form some type of conclusions on this. So let me go quickly back around the table, and if you've done any more insight and or testing, tell me where you went, what you ordered, and where the temps came in, and then I think we can go around the table and get some final thoughts here. Doug, let's start with you.
Okay, I went to Myron Steakhouse, which is a nice steakhouse here in San Antonio. My wife ordered a bone-in ribeye at a mere $3. I ordered just a regular ribeye, and she ordered it $140, and I ordered mine at $135 just to kind of see. They both came out. Mine came in at $135, just perfect.
Wow.
But it was and then hers came out at $137, and then 2 or 3 minutes later hers was at $140, which was perfect for what she had ordered. But then 2 or 3 minutes later mine was at $143.
No way.
And one of the things that they specialize in is like Ruth Chris, where David went the week before, the month before, they serve it on a 350-degree plate. So and it was overcooked. So in summary, I think that number one, you can't go by color. Meathead told us that, right?
Yep.
And it all depends on the lighting. So, in the menu, if it says that, rare is red and, medium rare is pink and all that BS, it is BS. Number two, the hot plate thing, I think if I go to a restaurant, I want to make sure that they don't serve it on a hot plate, because the thickness of my steak and the reason it went up 9 degrees is because the thickness of my steak was about 1.25 inches. The thickness of her bone-in ribeye was about 2 inches, and so we could handle the hot plate. So I think that one of the main questions we need to ask is, how thick are the steaks? When we buy them in the store, I always want 1 3/8 inches or 1.5 inches. So I think that's an important thing to ask. No hot plate. And I think the grade of the meat matters, because when I went to, it wasn't Beef O'Brady's steak, Steve, but it was Dante's in Great Fall. They cooked it perfectly. This was another test I did, but it was tough as nails. I'm out.
Do you quantify that up to the quality of the meat then, Doug? Because it was tough, cooked well, but just bad meat.
Yeah, it was cooked perfectly, just like their menu said, that they charbroil them perfectly, and it was perfect at 135, but it was tough as nails.
All right, Steve, go ahead.
I went to I did a David. I went to Ruth Chris, and I told the girl what I was going to do. I took my Thermopin, and I ordered a oh God, what's it called? Anyway, my wife ordered a filet, and I
Porterhouse, T-bone,
filet,
keep going,
New York strip,
hanger,
yep, New York strip, and I said I wanted mine at 130, and Barbara wanted hers at 140. And what was weird, they brought out the bread and the butter, and I temped everything. The bread was like 135, the butter was 125, and I'm just using my thermometer. And they brought out the steak, and my steak on that super hot plate was 87 degrees, and my wife's steak was 63 degrees. I'm not kidding. And we cut into these things. We cut into these things. And, it was purple. It was copper, and that purple color. that they weren't even rare. They were almost raw, and so we let them sit on the plates for a while and kind of looked at each other like, this is weird. And the steaks weren't as hot as the bread and the butter, and they never really came up to 130 and 140. We ate them, and it was, they were just okay. There's nothing. They weren't anything to write home about. And the warmest thing came out was the bread pudding at the end. It was 140 something.
So are you a fan of hot plates? I mean, Doug, obviously not a fan of hot plates. I'm not either, but I mean, do you care?
Hey, really, I'm gonna say this. I had a $100 gift certificate somebody gave me. I don't even know. They gave it to me like 2 years ago. I have and this is no joke. I have a philosophical opinion about paying that much for food. I really do. And if I hadn't had that gift card, I wouldn't have gone. And I won't go back. I mean, it's watching a bunch of young kids, try to treat you something special. I'm just not into that. And the steak, it wasn't anything that I couldn't have gotten a better cut over at the cross street, Joe Alexander's.
David, what about you?
Okay, so I did something a little different. After talking to the other correspondents and finding out what they've seen, Steve and I both went to Ruth's Chris, and if I believe every other steakhouse that we've reported on has cooked their steaks to or above the temperature we asked for, completely dispelling, Greg, the rumor that you had heard, except for Ruth's Chris. And so at their suggestion, I performed a test earlier today, actually. I went to Walmart, just got a regular choice ribeye, 2 of them, both about 1.3 pounds apiece and both exactly 1.4 inches thick. So essentially identical steaks. I cooked them on a grill, a gas grill.
There wasn't anything that I couldn't have gotten.
Oh, sorry. Cooked them on a gas grill at about 600 degrees. The temperature, when I wanted to see what would happen if you served them on a 500-degree platter like Ruth's Chris. That was the purpose of this test. Now, I don't have a ceramic plate. I called my ceramic plate, actually the company, and asked them how hot I could put them in the oven. They said 300 degrees. So I chose a cast iron skillet, but it should have about the same heat retention. And I heated it up in my oven to exactly 500 degrees. And I pulled both steaks off the grill. Steak A was 125.3. Steak B was 126.4. So pretty close coming off of the grill.
Yep.
I then put steak A on just my cutting board and let it rest. And I put steak B on my 500-degree skillet. I then temped them 2 minutes later. Steak A was 126, so it had risen 1.4 degrees. Steak B on the skillet was 130.6, raised 3.6. I then tested it 5 minutes in. Steak A had gone down to 124.4, so minus almost 1 degree from the original temperature, while steak B on the skillet continued to climb to 136.8.
Wow.
10.4 degrees more than when I pulled it off.
David, when you put the steak, or when you took it off the grill and then put it in the pan, did it sizzle?
Oh, I've sent you a video, Greg. I don't know if we have time for it, but it sizzled. I timed that as well. It sizzled to the 6-minute mark. From the time I put it on until 6 minutes later, the pan continued to sizzle.
Sorry.
And then I tested again at 10 minutes. And this is the real mind blower, because let's say they put at Ruth's Chris, they pull it off, they put it on the plate, and they let it sit there and wait before they bring it to you. The steak A, which was off and on the cutting board, 123.3. So it had actually lowered 2 degrees from when I pulled it off the grill at exactly where I wanted, 125.3. Steak B, that had been sitting on the skillet for 10 minutes, 149.3. Almost 23 degrees higher than when I pulled it off the grill. That's the difference of going from a medium rare to a medium well steak just in the rest for 10 minutes. So my hypothesis, from as scientific as a test as I could do at my home, I think that rumor you may have heard may specifically have been directed at a very popular restaurant and steakhouse in Ruth's Chris, who is probably purposely undercooking them dramatically to try to account for almost a 20-degree carryover cook on those plates.
Wow. I mean, that is absolutely mind-boggling. Doug, as you listen to David's experiment, are you shocked at the amount of rise that skillet steak had?
No, I'm because I would think that a skillet would actually hold its heat a little better than even a ceramic or a plate or et cetera. So I kind of saw that with my steak at Myron's as well. That the hot platter increased and I think it's directly related. I mean, mine was a 14 ounce, and my wife's was like a 22 ounce. So obviously extra mass too. So yeah. That's exactly why I think that you order your steak now without a hot plate.
What do you think about David's experiment there, Steve? That's pretty impressive.
Well, it was very impressive, but you give a 500-degree skillet and a 120-degree steak, it seems like they're fighting each other. One's trying to rise on the heat that it's touching, but the skillet is losing temperature as soon as it's removed from the stove. Yeah. So they're going to meet somewhere, and I'm thinking that's what Ruth Chris is trying to say. They have perfected. We can perfect the steak. We can cook it to X, and we know how hot the plate is, and we'll put them together. And as one temperature falls, the other temperature rises. They meet somewhere in the middle. But that wasn't the case with ours. I think it was just sloppily done. I temped our steak too. I mean, I temped our plate. It was nowhere near 500 degrees like advertised. It was barely over 200 right when they brought it.
Well,
so I don't know what they did. I mean, wrong. I mean, I didn't complain. I don't complain. I just don't go back.
Bruce Chris is, the original tagline was steak, hot steak. Your first bite of steak is going to be, okay. The last bite of steak is going to be as hot as your first bite of steak. Like, that was the whole marketing gimmick with that 500-degree plate. So they wanted you to have hot steak all the way through from start to finish. I don't think there was any more masterminding than that.
And the pictures that I took, Greg, I mean, I had an infrared thermometer, the kind, you point and you pull the trigger and point, and I know that the skillet was 500 degrees. And what I forgot to do was take a temperature of the skillet 10 minutes later. To Steve's point, he didn't think it was 200. But I can tell you, when I cut the steak, I did not cut into the steak until the 10-minute mark. And when I cut the steak, you could see the difference. The bottom section of the steak had probably a 1/4 inch more cooked on it than the top section of the steak, because it had continued to cook from the bottom up.
Right.
So no doubt in my mind, if they have a 500-degree plate, even a 400-degree plate, they better account for carryover. If you order a 135-degree steak, they better pull it off of the grill at 120 and hope that they've timed it correctly when it gets to the table, so they don't send back a bunch of overcooked steaks.
All right, this is the Embedded Correspondents segment, guys. Stand by for the quick break here, and we'll come back and finish up with
continuing to produce
incredible. It's been a day. We will where do I even want to go? All right, now hold on a second. Stop that. Hold on. We're almost there. Put that there. Here we go.
Continuing to...
No, that's not it. It's not it.
Continuing to produce...
Wow. I don't even know what the hell's going on. Eject. Go here. There we go. Jeez Louise. Happy anniversary. Green Mountain Grills. That's right. Some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. 3 different sizes to choose from. If you are somebody that likes to do portable stuff, you like to camp. I mean, I don't like to camp, but if you like to camp, you like to, college football is ready to rock and roll. So maybe you're going to be into the tailgating stuff, the scene like that. You want something portable, or you want pellet-fired convenience. Green Mountain Grills has got you covered with the Davy Crockett's. And if you don't have access to your traditional outlet, 12 volts right from your truck, van, or SUV, all you need to power it. You're not sacrificing a tremendous amount of capacity in order to take that portability. Now, want something to go in the backyard? Okay, 2 different models to choose from. How about the Daniel Boone, which is the middle size, or the Jim Bowie, which is the much bigger version, or the bigger brother? Both pellet fired, both 20-pound hoppers, both 5-degree increment sets, both have Wi-Fi capabilities if you get that model. You can get secondary racks to add cooking capacity. Of course, my favorite part of the whole thing is not only are they super reliable, super easy to use, but you can rip the guts right out of them and put in the pizza oven insert, so now you can have a high-heat pizza party at your house anytime. You can do 20 different pizzas, 20 different ways, and they all cook in 2 minutes or less. Here's a quick setup. Set your pit temperature at 350 degrees. Inside the oven, it's going to be right around 700 degrees. Then adjust from there. I find my sweet spot to be right into that 320, 330 range. But if you want to cook at 1,000 degrees in the oven, set your pit at 500 degrees and away you go. Things can get squirrely real quick, so pay attention if you're going to cook that hot. But find the temperature that's right for you. They can also supply you with pellets and rubs and sauces and all that other stuff. Visit the website at Green Mountain Grills. That's greenmountaingrills.com. And we are back with the Embedded Correspondents segment. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via the Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. And we welcome back the Embedded Correspondents here. All right, guys, so real quick as we go around the horn here, just a quick answer, yes or no. Was my... Oh, you got to be freaking kidding me. Was my hypothesis proven or disproven? David?
I would say it was disproven with the exception of Bruce Chris.
Doug, proven or disproven?
Ditto to what David said.
All right. Steve?
Disheveled.
Well, we ran out of time in the last segment, but I will quickly go through and say that I visited 2 steakhouses this past month. That's right. One courtesy of Steve Ray. Thank you, Dante's, for a birthday gift card. That I would call Dante's a high-end restaurant here in Cleveland. Very exclusive. You gotta call, make a reservation. It's in a retrofitted bank. Quite the ambiance. And we've come to learn 2 things about my wife and myself. While perhaps we think we really like expensive stuff, we really don't like fine dining. I'm with Steve. I don't like being made to feel like I'm more important than somebody else, or I've made the best decision in my life for coming into this restaurant, or getting lectured by some snot-nosed punk telling me why would I cook a steak to this temperature or that temperature, or question why I have a thermometer in my pocket. Shut up, scumbag, and go take my dinner order, because I could have went right across the street to some other restaurant.
Beef O'Brady's.
Yeah. Nevertheless, there's Beef O'Brady's. There is a Beef O'Brady's right in Eastlake, by the way. But we went to Dante's, and I got the ribeye steak, and I asked it to be 130 degrees internal temperature, and she's like, I said, do you have thermometers in the back? She said, yes, they're all my students, and each one of them carry a thermometer. And the only thing I didn't like about the steak is that it came with stuff on top of it, like tomatoes and some semblance of weirdo salad and a cornbread pudding on the top of the steak. I had to get a small excavator to push that shit off so I could actually see the steak, which, by the way, was visibly beautiful. Great grill marks. I mean, I don't care about that, but I mean, from a presentation standpoint, I mean, it looked really good. 5 minutes after it hit my table, temped it. I had pictures, 135 degrees, perfectly cooked steak, flavored really well, absolutely knocked it out of the park. 2 weeks later, read The Steakhouse, widely considered to be one of the prime steakhouses, not only here in the state of Ohio, but yes, in the country. Go read it on those magazines and the airlines. You'll see what I'm talking about. And ordered the prime, or the ribeye as well. Ordered it 130 degrees. Didn't even get questioned. Came right back out. I tempted 5 minutes after hitting the table, 134 degrees. So my summation is, I guess it's a rumor. Damn it. But I did a lot of investigation, and I read a lot of pieces, and to kind of counteract your statement about Ruth Chris, that was never even mentioned in any of the articles that I read. These were all super high-end restaurants, more based in New York City than anywhere else, like Delmonico's and some other places that I'm not as courageous to say out loud in case I ever get to go there and get free steak from them because they know who I am and they don't. But I am surprised, I have to say, that there wasn't as much undercooking overall. So for me, it's now a pet thing because of my OCD. I'm actually going to do it every time I go out and order steak, but not to be revealed here anymore. So by and large, my undercooking of steak across America has been proven incorrect, and we move on from there. Case closed. Let's quickly, gents, talk about the KCBS Invitational. I don't know if anybody saw this, but last week, I believe it was unveiled on their website that the KCBS is, you can qualify for the Invitational Barbecue Championship, or to qualify, a team must have received a Grand Championship or Reserve Grand Championship award at a KCBS sanctioned contest within the previous calendar year. So if this first one is going to take place in February of next year, you're qualifying right now. Maybe you didn't know that halfway into the year, but guess what? You are qualifying. If you didn't know that, you have the chance. Or finish within the top 125 in the overall rankings at the end of the calendar year. Qualified team head cooks must be a KCBS member in good standing, which, by the way, I totally agree with. That's a different conversation. Yep. All international teams that have won grand champion or reserve grand champions in KCBS sanctioned contests from wherever they're at in their country, also eligible to compete. So I saw a lot of positive reaction. I mean, usually when KCBS posts anything, everybody can't wait to take a dump all over it. But I saw a lot of positive stuff. So as guys that are competitors, I'm not. So I do have my own take on it. But Doug, you're not necessarily a KCBS guy, but what's your take on the KCBS World Invitational Barbecue Championship? Open.
Well, when I went and looked at the press release, I thought it was funny that they released a red line that had the date in there in red. So I was like, okay, Mike McLeod isn't there to proofread their press releases anymore, but that was just a minor thing. So, okay, I think it's good that they're taking the top 125 plus you can, if you just, get a grand champion or reserve. So that way you don't have to, cook so many, because the cooker of the year in KCBS is so slanted to, the people that do it, 40 weeks a year and just are road warriors. And, we've heard Travis Clark, 10 tell all the stories about what a sacrifice he's made, etc. So I think it's good, that someone can cook, 10 cooks, and if they get a grand champion or a reserve grand champion, they also qualify as well. So the application portion is interesting because with the normal invitational, like at the Royal, the American Royal, the promoter actually has to send in the information in order for the grand champion to qualify for the invitational at the American Royal. In this case, obviously, since they're doing it post and after the fact, that's why you have to apply, because they're not keeping track of all that information, and the promoter is not pushing that information to them. So the actual team has to apply. So I'm for it. I think it's good. Actually, when I was in Montana, I spoke to a couple of teams that were at that event, the KCBS event there, and both of them mentioned the time frame that it's early February, and neither one of them were going to be able to haul their rigs all the way down across the country through Montana and down across Colorado, etc., in February.
Yep.
So they were going to go and perhaps even fly down and try to arrange to get, and one team mentioned that they were going to try to get, someone with the Jambo, etc. So they're going to have to go down there. They want to participate, but they're not going to have their own rigs. So I think it's, it's interesting the time of year that they picked, as well as the location, since it's really not centric to KCBS. But so that's my take on
it. David, thoughts?
Yeah, first let me jump back real quickly to the Open, Greg. I live in Bixby, Oklahoma, which is just outside of Tulsa. And the fact that you said Miami and live in Ohio, props to you, because half the people in Oklahoma say it wrong.
Damn right. I'll take it.
Damn right. So, I don't like what the KCBS is doing, and I'll tell you why. When I first started getting into this as a backyard barbecue guy, it felt like a cook-off. And it didn't feel like a sport. I got to rub shoulders with some of the best names in barbecue, and they'd give me some instruction, and I was right there next to them. And things like this continue to separate the guys that are doing this professionally with sponsorships and doing it for a living. It's separating it from the backyard guys, and the further the gap gets in there, the less and less interested the backyard guys are going to be in this event, in my opinion. Now, granted, it's nice that if these guys are busy doing these kind of contests because, hey, they've qualified or they've been invited, less competition for me and the ones that I'm in, but I don't care about winning these things. I'm doing it to learn and camaraderie and, to rub shoulders with the biggest names in the sport. You can't do that in golf. You can't do that in other events. Here, you can be right there alongside these guys. And I just feel like, the more and more prestigious the upper level gets, the more damage it's doing to the sport as a whole. Just my opinion.
Steve?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's overdue. I think if it was a library book, the fine would be more than a Jambo pit. I really do. The problem is it's not an invitational. It's a qualifier. They need to change the name to the KCBS Championship, plain and simple. This all came out of the competition with the World Food Championship. Competition builds better contest. And this is a great, great idea. Call it what it is, though. It's the KCBS Championship. It is the Barbecue Bowl. Simplified. Take all this invitational crap out of it. The King of the Smokers in California, that's an invitational. The Lamar Johnson Invitational we do here in Ottawa, that's an invitational. This is a qualifier. It's a championship. You got to win to get in, and you got to just let them know what you won. And I don't understand what this application is, but I guess that's just to let them know that you won. They have the results every week on their website. They know who won. They know who don't. They could put a stamp on an envelope and say, hey, Owl's Nest Barbecue, you won last weekend. You're in. It's a great idea. It's going to be a super event, and it is a great, great answer to the World Food Championships that are going to be held in November. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Steve, can you confirm that this contest was born out of competition from World Food Championships, or is that your speculation?
No, that's my. It's. I don't think it's speculation, Greg. I think that's where it came from. I think it's obvious where it came from. WFC's getting more press than they are. The WFC's eating their lunch, and they had to do something to answer the WFC call of like what's going on in November. They've kicked KCBS out, and they've taken the IBCA from Texas, and the WFC is going to have their own rules, and they're part of the barbecue contest. They had to answer. They had to do something, and they've done a great. I think they've had a great idea. Whoever idea this was is great. Hey, for all we know, it could have been Mike McLeod's idea before he left, or this could be the brainchild of Randall Bowman.
Okay, well, I believe that it has nothing to do with Mike McLeod. I think the guy's name is Jim Cole, or Cole might be his last name. His name was on the press release on the KCBS.US website when it was announced. So I do believe now. I don't know if Mike McLeod might have.
Jason Cole.
Jason Cole, yeah. So he's the guy putting this together and the one that has.
Well, he's a board member. Yeah, he's the board member from Tennessee. He just won the contest here in Tennessee last week.
All right. So, and he's also the one that decided on where this contest was going to be held. Not being a competitor myself, but following the industry and having had conversations on and off with KCBS through the last 10, 12 years, things that stood out to me are forever, the rap has always been that the KCBS is a sanctioning body. We provide sanctioning. We provide rules to follow. We make it so a barbecue competition in California is going to be the same as the barbecue competition in Florida as it is in Boston, Massachusetts. Why are they putting on a barbecue competition? It completely goes against what they have been saying forever and ever. We don't want to put on barbecue competitions. We want to sanction barbecue competitions. Secondarily, isn't this the American Royal except in February? If you're talking about invites and opens and all this other stuff, Steve, this is exactly how the American Royal Invitational is. You win a barbecue championship at a contest that's a state qualifier or proclamated by the governor, whatever the hell it is. If you win it, you'll get an invite to the American Royal Invitational. So is that an invitational or is that a qualifier, Steve? That's a qualifier, right?
It's a qualifier, right?
Okay.
But Greg, this is a lot like it's like the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour does not have a championship. Okay, the closest thing they have is the Players Championship as far as a major. They don't have a major. The PGA Tour does not have a major. They have to have the Players Championship, which is not a major. They would love to have a major. I think this KCBS is a major. And if it was Jason Cole, you had a fantastic idea, and it's going to be a big hit, and it's going to continue to grow.
I got two more.
Here's the other thing. This is going to be the inaugural event.
Great. Good build-up, Steve. Way to go, Doug. Good build-up. All right, go ahead again. This is going to be the inaugural event. Go ahead.
This show is cursed. What's going on tonight?
That was a cliffhanger.
The state competition of the NGS. So in order for them to get some publicity, they need to do an event themselves.
So this is going to be their marquee steak event. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is correct. You have to pay
$100.
You have to pay an extra $100 in order to participate.
I disagree with that. I don't think they're going to have an NGS this year, though.
What are you talking? No, it's part of this event. If you go and look at the application, you can apply for an additional $100 and participate in the state competition.
It is this year. They're doing it this year.
February.
It's at the February.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Steve. So this is another reason for them to have the event so that they can run their own first state competition.
Steve, I agree with your PGA simile, but that's what I don't like about it. When you have the Super Bowl, you know the NFL champs are the winners of the Super Bowl. Or when you have the World Series, you know who the champs are. What if they had 4 or 5 Super Bowls all with different divisions and you don't know? I mean, it never really differentiates itself from anybody. It's just like they're just having another event for the purpose of crowning our champion. I don't know that it solves anything except makes more money and, like I said, continues to separate people from what I think the purpose of barbecue competitions originally were.
Well, that's got to be why they're doing it as well. I mean, if it's going to be a moneymaker, KCBS has to be looking for different revenue streams to be coming in. I mean, you can only qualify 587,000 judges a year and, bank on that revenue going in when you're losing contests as well. The other two things that I noticed, in my opinion, as somebody who lives in Cleveland, Ohio, if this event is taking place in February, and as Doug just mentioned when he was up in Montana, bad time of year. I mean, I get that you can't have it later in the year because the established majors are already in play. The American Royal Invitational, American Royal Open, the Sam's Club. Wait a second, not the Sam's Club. The Jack. And by
Rodeo.
the way, Houston Livestock Rodeo. Attendance in the Northeast, Southeast, and potentially Pacific Northwest, like those places, probably aren't going to be as well represented as it would be if it was mid-year. So
that's a good point.
I think you have a couple of those issues. And look, I mean, it's never going to be utopia when you're bringing a new barbecue competition into the state of competition barbecue right now. There's never going to be a utopian date. But I don't know if anybody thinks that February, I heard a lot of comparisons getting thrown around to, well, NASCAR has their big Super Bowl right at the top of the season. Well, guess what? This ain't the Daytona 500. I mean, this is competition barbecue. There aren't going to be 500 million people showing up in short shorts and bikinis to go watch a bunch of fat dudes do competition barbecue. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So I would have liked to have seen a warmer month, but I think I would be not surprised in a year or two if perhaps the date got readjusted at some point. Maybe not the location. Maybe the location as well, but
what is the location? Is it Kansas City, Greg?
No.
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Right. And I did see a few other posts, by the way, that threw out a couple different locations that weren't necessarily that much farther away, that would have been a little bit more central by people that were way smarter than me. But, just from my perspective and an outsider looking at, February seems like not an ideal month, although I understand, you got to get in where you fit in. And then, it seems like a KCBS version of I want to do the American Royal too, but there's already the American Royal. Maybe it's just a precursor to the American Royal losing favor and will start to trend down. And now KCBS trying to get on board here and salvage something or make something their own that is like the American Royal Invitation. Guys, we are way over. It is past 11 o'clock. I have Steve Ray from Ooltewah, Tennessee, Doug Scheiding from Bulverde, Texas, and David Huff from Bixby/Tulsa, Oklahoma, just outside of Miami. Gents, always appreciate the time. Happy anniversary, and we'll look for you again next month. That's the Embedded Correspondents, of course.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at the BBQ Central.
Come on,
All guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline.
There you go.
Yummy.
There you go. Marley giving me an ID.
BBQ Central.
All right, way behind here, so stick with me. Attention, anyone interested and who loves sausage and barbecue. Who doesn't? Let me talk to you quickly about Southside Market and Barbecue, established in 1882. Southside, the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, and has been owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations. Famous for the original beef sausage, coarse, ground in a natural pork casing. The authentic Central Texas barbecue, something that cannot be missed. All meats, including the prime briskets, smoked low and slow for many hours over real Texas post oak wood. We ship nationwide via the online store, southsidemarket.com. More on that to follow. They ship fresh and smoked sausages nationwide. Shipping customers can choose to order now and ship later. Include a custom gift note, mailed to multiple addresses without additional charges. All shipped items are vacuum sealed to ensure freshness and ease of preparation. Shipped with dry ice to ensure complete freshness upon arrival. All meats processed in the on-site USDA facility. On-site meat markets for fresh and smoked products. Custom orders available. 2 restaurants, Elgin, Texas. 1882, Bastrop, Texas. 2014, grocery distribution through Texas, many surrounding states. Here's the deal. If you go to southsidemarket.com and you make an order before you check out, use coupon code BBQ Central. That's one word, BBQ Central. 10% off the coupons, or 10% off coupon code for everything you order online. Southsidemarket.com. That's southsidemarket.com. Let's wrap the show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, this portion of the show brought to you by National Barbecue News, dedicated to all things barbecue. Their goal to introduce new people to the barbecue world while keeping the barbecue enthusiast and professional informed on all the current happenings in and around Barbecue Nation. They obtain this goal by offering timely news stories, new product reviews, barbecue event calendars, and unique recipes inside their printed products, websites, social media pages, and email newsletters. Subscribe now by visiting barbecuenews.com. That's BARBECUE news.com. All right, all the way back in the first hour, we talked with Pat LaFrieda. LaFrieda.com. Check them out. If you're interested in hooking up with some prime steaks and some prime dry-aged steaks, I suggest you give him a visit, because I'm definitely going to be doing that. We'll have him on again, hopefully a little sooner than later. It's Pat LaFrieda. Follow him on Instagram, at Pat LaFrieda. Then in the second hour is the Embedded Correspondents segment, proving that the purposeful undercooking of the purposeful undercooking of steak across America is not very accurate on my part. We've proven that over the next 2 months. And then we also talked about the new KCBS Invitational, set to kick off next February or this coming February, depending on how you like to say. A big show planned for you next week. Stay tuned for that. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe, first saying, and secondly, saying good night now.